Welcome to another episode of Everything Intellectual Property. Today, we have a very special guest with us. This gentleman has created a tool used to unclog gutter downspouts. Please help me welcome the founder of the Sputter, Derek Thompson. How is it going, Mr. Thompson?
I am blessed, David, and thank you for having me today.
No, for sure. And I know we've been kind of talking about the last week or so about kind of inventing and entrepreneurship. And I'm excited to talk about your product here today, as well as kind of some other things. But for the audience who may not be familiar with your tool, the Sputter, can you maybe give a quick description of what that includes and what that consists of? And I also have a video to play to help out with that description as well.
The Sputter is the...
You want me to wait for the video to stop?
No, well, you can explain it or describe what the video is playing.
Well, that's the whole premise behind this tool, is being safe, using it from the ground. It's not a substitute for cleaning your gutters, but what it is an emergency relief tool to keep water flowing in your gutters. Leaves are not the problem with your gutters. There's always water. When water sits there, the weight of the water start to pull the gutters down, which pull the faces down, which make the roof start to wear a lot quicker. So this tool was made just to help people, seniors, veterans who physically can't do ladders. It was made to assist people in good home maintenance. That was the purpose for it.
Gotcha. And let me ask you about the inspiration, and we'll talk about kind of your upbringing and your background here in a little bit. But what was that kind of inspiration or that aha moment for you to say, okay, I need to kind of create a tool to resolve this issue? Was this something that you were kind of dealing with personally? Did you kind of hearing stories from friends and family members dealing with it? What was that kind of moment to make you say, okay, I have to kind of create something that solves this problem?
I created this originally for me because it was a headache for me. I would pay, and this was over 15 years ago. Wow. I mean, I was paying to get my gutters clean. A week later, wind blows, it rained, gutters get full, can't get back out the house. And I'm like, you know what? I need to figure out a way to keep water flowing until I can clean the gutters. Because I realized it wasn't the leaves, it was the downspout was clogged, and that's where all the water from the basement was coming from. So I went out in the garage, took a paint roller, honestly, prayed about it and got some wisdom and created this tool. And I used this modified paint roller for about 8 years. And it just worked. And my son saw it and one of his friends, and they was like, Dad, you may be on to something. And I kind of blew it off. And my wife, long story short, my wife went out to visit one of her friends, and her husband had some patents, which was not his. Long story short, he had a friend who was a patent lawyer who listened to what I had to say, investigated it, and here we are. It's like I say, this was meant, and that's why the price point is where it is. And the only reason the price point is as high as it is because in retail or e-commerce, they take 50%. So you got to make sure you can produce it, have some profitability. So that's where it is. But the whole goal was to put something in the market that everybody could afford to help keep the maintenance of their property up.
And let me ask you this. What's the kind of the biggest thing that people don't understand? Again, you talk about gutters. Again, every house has gutters. I know when we were talking last week, we talked about every house has gutters. So it's not like just because everybody's dealing with this issue in some form of fashion. And, a lot of times, we want to get our gutters clean and, that may cost money. But this seems like you said, this is the clogging of the gutter. So what leads to that clogging of the gutter that makes this tool so effective to kind of clean that, or at least from an emergency standpoint?
Well, usually it's usually a few different contributors. You get small little twigs in there that start to lay across there with the leaves pile up. It could be we just went through probably last month, all this brown fuzz stuff that's floating around. Well, all that get wet and like cotton. So it starts to stick and it starts to build up a little bit. And that's what creates the the little cover that sits over the downspout hole.
Okay. And that makes sense. And I was kind of, in preparing for this interview, it was interesting because I was, and I came across this product before in terms of the leaf, what is it? The leaf gutter or something like that. Where's
A leaf guard?
The leaf guard where you put it over the gutters to kind of prevent the leaves from getting in there, which again, that helps. I would imagine that helps kind of prevent the clog up as well. But it seems like this product, to the extent that some homeowners or, whoever has leaf guards on their gutters, this still works with that, correct?
Yes. Actually, some of the first few I sold was that people had leaf guards.
Wow.
The original leaf guards, the problem with all the original leaf guards were they went on flat. So if the leaves got up there and was wet, they would just lay there wet and cover the drain holes. Since then, leaf guards have got a little bit better because they angle now the screen a little bit to allow the leaves to blow off. Yep. But the problem with leaf guard is they're not good for pine needles. Pine needles still get in those holes, still clog up the downspout. So this is why people with leaf guard buy the sputter, because they still got to unclog the downspout. Yep. It's good for leaves, but the pine needles and the little stuff get through the holes, and you're right back to square one.
No, for sure. And then one of the things that we were talking about last time is, here in Michigan, I know we're both in the Michigan area, which, we get snow, we get a lot of rain in the wintertime, which kind of leads to those icicles specifically along the edge of the roof, along the gutters. Yes. And a big part of that is because the fact that things are not flowing properly down that downspout, correct?
Yep. And I do it in the winter. I use it in the winter because if I know it's going to snow, or even if it's a snow and it really hasn't froze yet, I take the sputter and stick it up in the downspout to create a hole. So as it melts, it has somewhere to go.
Right. No, that makes sense. And then another thing you had said earlier, again, we're just kind of keeping it surface level at this point, talking about gutters and icicle buildup and things that kind of are more so presented around that gutter area. But this can present a bigger challenge from a foundational standpoint, where you're talking about water getting into the basement, getting into the foundation, causing cracks. Can you talk a little bit about that aspect? Because again, that can lead to a lot more money down the line, which this tool can kind of help prevent.
Usually the only place I get water in my basement comes from the downspout, one in the front of the house and one in the back of the house. Yep. Those two I have to make sure I get clean. I keep open. And the thing with the sputter, the one in the front of the house, some downspouts are under eaves. You know what I mean? They kind of drain down and there's a eave on top of it. So that's why the sputter is kind of flexible. It allows you to twist and turn and to get it to go down in there to open it up. But when I go in the basement and see water on the floor, I know exactly where it's coming from. It's the downspout. As soon as I go open those up, no more water. Right. And my neighbors had the same problem. I thought it was just isolated to me, but a couple of my neighbors are doing one of the downpours. They're like, Derek, we saw water coming in. We went in to open the downspout. They're like, man, this is anything else you invent, let us know. We want it.
No, let me ask you this, because you talked about not when you purchase this, I'm assuming that you just get the actual the sputter, but from an extension pole standpoint, I know we got to get creative, but at least kind of growing up where we grew up at. Now, is this like the extension pole? Does that come with it? Can you kind of just buy those from your hardware store? How does that work to be able to kind of screw this on or attach it to the extension pole to get up there?
It's threaded. It's a 3/4 inch just nominal thread that's universal to 95% of anything. Extension pole, broom handle, it does mop handle, it don't matter. Myers was pushing me to package it with an extension pole. The problem I have with that is it takes the price point from $19.95. Now you up to $50-something. And that's with a small extension pole. If you go to a larger extension pole, it becomes a lot more. And so what I told Myers was, I don't want to start getting in the business of selling somebody else's extension pole in order to sell my tool.
Right.
For the most part, most people have something. 80% of people got a broom handle.
Yeah.
Let's consider it done at that point. You know what I mean? So that's one of the reasons why I didn't do that, David. Is because the variable was just too much. How big extension pole you need? A 12-footer, 15-footer, a 20-footer? You know what I mean? And I felt like if I put a 15-footer in the pack and somebody needed 25 feet, they wasn't going to buy it because they didn't need the pole. Right. So after I kind of gave that argument to Myers, they agreed. I'm like, the sweet part about this is $20 get you this tool. Bingo, and that's it.
Right. No, yeah. And again, as you started to kind of lay that out, that does make sense as far as, okay, you know, how much pole do we need? And do I want to kind of buy a pack that has a 10-foot pole when I need a 20, or kind of vice versa, that type of a thing, which can start to kind of make it difficult for a customer to justify the price. Now, I would imagine that you get feedback from the feedback perspective. Do kind of customers kind of have something that they can kind of use with it? Is that typically what you kind of see from people to buy it, that they have something, like you said, a broom or whatever the case may be, that they can just screw on there to kind of, you know, get the job done?
Yeah. Most of the people buy it because they already have something. I've had no complaints about people arguing about why didn't I sell extension pole, because they kind of get it. You know, if you looked at the sputter and then you went and looked at the price of extension pole, you could do the math in your own mind, and you know, now you're looking at a whole different price point. So for the most part, you know, this allows people to go get what they need. If they need a 30-foot pole, then if they're willing to invest in the 30-foot pole, that's fine.
Yeah. No, yeah, and that makes sense. I think the big thing that even maybe we didn't talk about earlier is the fact that this allows you to kind of unclog the drains from the ground floor. I know, you know, back in the youthful days, I don't know about you, but for me, even though I'm still kind of young, I remember, you know, being teenage years and just going up on the roofs and kind of doing things. And hey, I'm not doing that anymore these days. I like to be on the ground surface and being able to kind of have this tool, like you say, using it with some type of an extension pole or whatnot to unclog the drains, as well as get frisbee, get things off the roof. It seems like this is definitely a utility to cover more than just even a downspout. Like I say, getting frisbee, getting different things off the roof without having to climb the roof or pay to somebody to climb the roof or get on the roof to get things down.
Yeah, you know, with as many and the way our weather patterns are changing, I can't tell you the branches I pull off the roof that just fall up there.
Right. No, yeah, you sure right about that. And next thing you know, like you said, you having to pay somebody $100, $200 to go get branches off the tree, the roof, so they don't cause further damage. It seems like this thing is definitely worthwhile for that, in addition to those other things that we talked about. I guess let me ask you this. From a standpoint, again, I know you're retired now, and as I was, like I said, doing some preparation, I saw that you were I had a lot of project manager experience. Was this something that you always thought to yourself that you wanted to be a entrepreneur, come up with a product, or is this something that just kind of really came out of nowhere based on your own experiences with kind of the issues that you were solving with the sputter?
No, this has been my whole background. I've always created. I mean, my original background is I've been a automotive draftsman. So I started on the board with triangles and compasses and went to CAD. So my original background was I created stuff. I was a Ford design engineer. So if you look at like the F-150s and you see where they got those adjustable pedals, well, I created that with Dura. I mean, there's so many inventions I have, but all the intellectually owned to the people you work for. I was met with a guy at one of the my church men's group, and he works for Taycom. And when I was telling him all the stuff I made on semi trucks, I up armored every semi truck in Iraq during the Iraq War, and all of the stuff you see on there, those are my inventions. But Halliburton on them because they were paying the tab. So, you know, I'm always looking for a better way to do something or a more efficient way. That's just how my brain is wired.
Well, and that makes sense. And I know you talked about the ownership of it. This is, I think, a great segue into the intellectual property. So it seems like kind of from your days as an engineer and kind of developing product, whether that's for armored vehicles, whether that's for domestic vehicles, it seems like you have experience with intellectual property. So with this product, were you able to get some IP on it, whether it's patents, design patents, utility patents? How did that process work?
Yeah, we got design and utility. I mean,
Nice.
we covered the gamut. Once we looked for a couple years, and let me preface, I waited 10 years before I even thought about patent this, because being a business guy, one of the things I know, if you go playing in somebody's backyard, make sure your pockets are deep enough to play to win. So when I went and looked at all of the gutter cleaning manufacturers out there, what they had, where they were at, I went globally. I looked at all of the gutter too, especially Australia, because everybody kept telling me what Australia, they ain't got nothing to compare to what I have. So after looking at it globally, I'm like, okay, we need to cover the gamut on this. This is not only a design, this is a usage, because there ain't nothing else out there for the downspout. There's one thing that they call a downspout auger that you use from the ground up from the bottom of the downspout. I'm like, who gonna do all that? That's a lot. So I went for the full gamut. I mean, a lot of people said that, they complain about spending money with their patent lawyer. I don't have that problem. Look here, charge me, because I know where this is going, and I want to make sure we cover. So we're covered in the U.S., Canada, Mexico, China, the EU, because I'm like, it's a global tool. So
right. No, and that was going to be the next question. I'm glad you answered that, because again, like I said, this is not just a U.S. thing. Again, pretty much all houses around the world have gutters on them. So I would imagine that this will have utility in other countries as well, which it seems like you said, Canada, Mexico, China. I'm sure countries in Europe. You kind of protected this thing globally, it looks like.
Yep. I mean, because here lately, about a month ago, we had a couple orders through Lowe's for Hawaii. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, there's something to be said. Then I started to remember there's a lot of parts on the islands of each Hawaiian island that's just rainforest area.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, okay. Or they could use this on the extension pole to grab coconuts. I don't know what they do, but I mean, it's a versatile tool.
Right. No, and this is actually another good point that you brought up in terms of just kind of being in Lowe's. How did that kind of partnership, how did that happen? Because again, a lot of times people want to get into these kind of different stores, the Lowe's, the Walmarts, the Targets of the world. How did that come about to be able to say, okay, now I'm a partner with Lowe's, and Lowe's is kind of selling my product?
Let's start by saying people need to do a lot of the stuff they don't want to do. They need to make themselves go do it, because usually that's where the fruit is at, the places you don't want to go. I mean, so I went to an event to support the Southfield Chamber of Commerce. There was a guy there who made a carpet pulling machine. Got to know him. He sent me an email saying, hey, Derek, here's the vice president of Lowe's Global Purchasing email. So I sent this guy an email, and he was very big in community service. So I sent him an email saying, Mr. Bowles, look here, not asking to get in your store, but I want to know how I support you on your community endeavors. We're a community-based company. Whether I sell stuff with Lowe's or not, it doesn't matter. 2 seconds later, I get a call from 2 buyers. So his 2 buyers work with me.
Wow.
And so they was like, you know what, Derek, we like this. There's like, but let us tell you how this has got to work. There's like, for us to take this back up the food chain to him, we got to go through 15 different levels of people to say yes.
Wow.
They say, so if you can join a group, there's a platform called Range Me. And Range Me have a bunch of new products. That's what they do. And this is where all the buyers and retailers go to look for new product. So I signed up for Range Me, $99. And every year Lowe's have what they call Into the Blue, where they go pick small businesses with new products to come to North Carolina to present. Long story short, I got picked.
Wow.
So when I went in, I had did my due diligence. I had a presentation together. I knew how much Lowe's made every week from gutter tools and hardware tools. I knew my numbers, and I knew that they have 16 million sales every week. Jeez. That's just in the US. This is 16 million sales. And this is the store. This ain't e-commerce.
Right.
So my thing was, okay, 16 million. Let's just say if we could do a half a percent of that every week coming through the store. Oh, we sell ourselves. So long story short, when I went in to do the presentation, it was a brother. And he was like, I don't want to hear your presentation. And I got mad. So there was a blessing. My son went with me and was kicking me on the table to shut up. And he took over because the guy was just saying, look, you don't need to present to us. We already want your product. What you need to do is go back and put stuff into place that if we needed more infomercials to explain how to use the tool.
I got you.
He put me on a mission to go do that. We did that. I did that, had that done, got to the point that we were about to sign the deal. Then I didn't hear from him for a few weeks. Couldn't find out he was gone. And I'm like, no. So by the grace of God, I had the vice president's email. So I sent Bill Bowles an email. Said, Mr. Bowles, he gone, yada, yada. This is how, and they made sure I got in. But now, here's the thing that people need to understand. For getting into like Lowe's, I mean, I pay $115 a month for EDI. So it ain't like you got to be connected to do business with these guys, even on the e-commerce site. So that's every month. The onboarding process is almost a 3-month process. But now I got it done in less than a month.
Wow.
Because I'm up every morning at 2-3 o'clock anyway, and corresponding with the technicians, they're all in India. So you get the emails in the middle of the night before you wake up. And then by the time you respond, they gone. So you done lost 2 days. Soon as they email will hit my inbox, I reply, we got it done. So that was one of the benefits for me being up in the middle of the night is I could take care of stuff right then and there and move the needle a lot quicker. So I just say that to say, David, that when people want to do stuff like this, they need to look at the whole gamut because you got to spend some money long before you make some money. So you need to be prepared for this.
No, and that's a part of the game. I'm glad you said that. I know when people come to me as an IP attorney, as a patent attorney and say, I'm not even going to say that about the call I got yesterday. But anyway, when people come to me and they kind of want a nickel and dime on the patent fees, it's like, man, you got $1 million, or everybody want to sell $1 million, but you don't want to sell. I mean, you don't want to spend a couple of dollars on the front end and make sure things protected, make sure you put yourself in the best position possible to have the most success long term. And that always kind of, it's mind boggling to me because they trying to kind of skim. And I get it. You're a small business, you're a startup company. You're trying to not overspend, which I 100% understand that. But then to try to kind of nickel and dime kind of your way when you're kind of have $1 million dreams with the product or with the business, that always something that was interests me. And to your point, man, you got to spend some money long before you start to really make some money. And do you have that in you to do that? Yes or no? I guess that remains to be seen.
Well, that's just like I've been trying to instill in a lot of the vendors in our Black Inventors group is you want something for nothing. I don't care how you slice it, how you dice it, call it what it want, but you don't understand the landscape for one. And what you guys don't get is business is about relationships. You got to plant good seed in order to get a harvest somewhere. See, just like the expo, only 1 or 2 people showed up from the Black Inventors group, and it's like, dude, I mean, this is how I met you, just being there. See, if you ain't out there, then you can't get there. I mean, so we got a little ways to go, David, on the mentality of where we are. Like I tell people, you make concessions to buy whatever you want to buy when you want to buy it. So now, if this ain't important to you, then shame on you. This should be the top priority. I mean, there people look at me like, how do you do that? I'm like, dude, it ain't like I have the money to do it, but what I've learned over time is I can't afford not to do it. So I make sure I do it, because if I'm broke, at least the boat is in the water now. But trying to hang on to a few dollars and the boat is still on the dock, that's a loss no matter how you look at it, you know. So
no, yeah, I definitely agree with that. And man, I think you summed it up perfectly with that. So let me ask you this, just a couple more questions for you. And this is a two-part question that I always like to ask. What was the biggest breakthrough that you had with the Sputter up until this point in time? Was it getting in Lowe's? Was it kind of some other thing? And then on the flip side of that, what was the biggest challenge that you had to overcome with the Sputter? We all know that business entrepreneurship. And this is why I like doing these interviews, because you see Shark Tank, people see these other different shows and they just see all the good, but it's like, no, man, you got ups and downs. It's like a roller coaster going through this thing sometimes. So it's kind of challenges that you have to overcome, and everybody have to overcome them. It's not just kind of you and your business. So I guess, like I said, the first question, what was the biggest breakthrough with the Sputter up until this point in time? And then on the flip side, what was the biggest challenge that you had to overcome with the product and the business?
You know, the biggest breakthrough was the Michigan Inventors Coalition, to be quite honest. I mean, when my whole thing, David, was before I got to spending a lot of money, I wanted to see what people's perception was. Yeah. Because if their perception wasn't good, I could have the cure for cancer. It don't matter. It ain't going nowhere.
Right. That makes sense. Go ahead.
So being up there, and I won. I kind of won the pitch competition because, and I wasn't even participating. That was the sad part about it. But what I did was, like Joe Finkler, who was the president, Steve Canton, who got all that cat stuff, the cat guy who in Petco and all that. When those two guys said, you know what, this is the best invention I've seen in about 10 years.
Wow.
That meant something to me, because I'm like, here's some OGs,
heavy hitters
in this game. You know.
And that makes you want to keep going, because again, like you said, like I was said earlier, man, sometimes you're like, man, do I want to keep doing this? Like you said, you can't really afford not to, but you know, those slow moments kind of have you thinking. But when you have kind of the OGs and the successful people, you get those kind of moments to keep pushing. Those are important as you're going through things.
Well, you know, and this is what I always tell people too, David, is they need to go on rangeme.com. And I suggest that because I'm like, you could do the basic $99 for the whole year. Yeah. And I say, where else you going to get a salesman for $99 for a whole year? I say, and what it really does, and that was the other thing that put wind in my sails too, because when I went on Range Me for the whole Lowe's thing, right? And that's the only reason I went on the Range Me was to get into the blue. But then the owners of Range Me would call me and they'd be like, Derek, could you please go on and fill out your profile? Because I did a crappy profile because I wasn't looking to do nothing. I just went on for Lowe's. So I'm like, I don't need to put my stuff on here. Right. These guys were calling me every day. Please go in and update your profile. They're like, you got buyers looking at your stuff everywhere right now.
Wow.
And when they did that, I'm like, okay. So this is where I figured they may not take it right now, but everybody's going to take this gutter tool. They just waiting to see what proof of sale look like in the market. And is it something that's going to gravitate toward the customer base? But after that, it was like, I really don't care no more. I mean, I'm a business guy, so no don't mean nothing to me. I mean, I get no every day. I'm a black businessman and automotive. Give me a break.
Right. No, yeah, you're definitely right about that. And then I guess as far as kind of the challenges that you had to overcome, can you maybe kind of at least talk about at least one of those?
Yeah, here's why I think most of the challenges in all of this is just financing. Just being able to go as far as you could go where your dollars allow you. Fortunately, I was blessed enough that I kind of knew what to do bits and pieces long before I kind of got there. So I already had a tool maker. I already knew what my tools were going to cost. So one of the things I did was set my family down. And I was like, look, all you guys make very good money and you got money in 401ks and you ain't getting but 3.5%. Let's fund the company. If we fund the company annually, I give you back 5% on what you give me. And so far, everything's been running good. I say, because this way I don't have to go get bad money.
Yep.
When this make it, we make it because we finance it ourselves. We don't owe nobody anything. So that's kind of what I did. And my family said, let's do it. And that's what we do. We sit down, we go through the numbers. We need new inventory. We buy new inventory, but we own our own tools, the whole 9 yards.
No, man, and I love that. I really love that. Like you said, before you go out and get this super crazy interest rate and things like that, number one, to be able to go to the family, which they're going to have your back, more than, finance lenders and whatever the case may have. And then they kind of understand the product. And it seems like at the end of the day, it can be a family-owned business. So it seems like you're able to kind of get that point across, which, man, that's something that I think a lot of people should take going forward. I guess I hadn't heard that one before, but I really like that one. And then I guess the last two questions is, number one, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs? Again, you're somebody who kind of did this really as you're retiring, which I always like, because entrepreneurship is not this kind of, it's not like, okay, you have to be rich, you have to be, knowing a whole lot, have a whole lot of money, or again, it can kind of run its kind of the phases, or it can be for anybody. But what advice would you give to that aspiring entrepreneur who is trying to get up, or at least make a decision on whether or not they get off into the game or not get off into the game? I know we all have ideas, because if there's one thing that I know, when I tell people I'm a patent attorney, they're like, hey, I have an idea. So we all have ideas, but what advice would you give to that person who's trying to kind of really come to a decision on, what do I do with my idea? Do I really do something about it, or do I just shelve it and do something else?
No, first and foremost, they got to be honest with themselves. Don't start nothing half doing it and expect ultimate results. It don't work that way. So the first thing I tell people is, you got to decide, is this a hobby that you just want to pursue for your own self-gratification to do this? And you can do a cheap $150 provisional patent, whatever it is, if that's what you want to do. But if this is something that you want to put in the market, do your research first. Make sure you understand your path, because for me, I'm still on my path. I haven't deviated from nothing I wanted to do, because I knew where all the roadblocks and the potholes were to begin with. So it's nothing new. So I just tell people, do that. And for most of all, be 110% committed.
Like that.
Nobody who I know has made it, even with inventions or in the business world. Ain't nobody made it on the first go round. Until you get some heartaches, until you know where the bottom is, look here, you ain't coming back to the top. So be prepared, but don't give up. And understand, this is a process. This is a learning process. So every day you just learn something, man. You just learn something.
No, for sure. And man, I 100% agree with that. You tell by the jersey in the background, you can see it a little bit, but playing football for Michigan State University under Coach D'Antonio, he always said, man, you either in or you out. There's no gray area with this thing. You're either in and you committed to the program and what we're trying to accomplish, or you're out. You can't be 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And I think what you said summed that up perfectly. And you got to be committed to it. And again, that's really, we talked about entrepreneurship and kind of coming out with a product, but I think that's life. If you're trying to have success in anything that you're trying to do, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your business, man, you got to be committed to it. You can't kind of give this half-hearted effort and think that you're going to have success at that thing. So, and I absolutely love that advice in terms of being 100%, 110% committed to it. And I guess the last question I'll ask you is, and maybe the most important question, how can people follow you in the Sputter and purchase the product? I know we talked about Lowe's, but I'm sure there's other platforms and stores and ways.
We on Amazon, Walmart, and they can just go to the website, and there's buttons on there that they can pick whichever one they want to buy from. They could buy it. We used to sell it through our website, but the Shopify cost to do that just was not worth selling it ourselves. It was just like, we ain't there yet. Now, when we get up to about 100,000 units, 500,000 units, then it becomes advantageous to do that, because you can take care of all the fees and the logistics of it. Right now, my thing was, who do I drop this off to, and it become their problem? So with Amazon, I send them 300. Walmart, I send them 200. And then they just sell, and then I just replenish the inventory, which works good for me. I don't have to buy packaging. I don't have to do all that. Where Lowe's will not let me do that yet, because I'm still a single BBU. But the good news for Lowe's is FedEx is two blocks from my house. So that's all the little stuff people have to think about. Well, I want to do e-commerce. Well, what does that mean? How far is FedEx from you and UPS? Because if you got to drive 10 miles to keep going to drop off a package, is it worth it? Is the cost worth it for you? The only reason Lowe's worked for me, trust me, if FedEx wasn't that close to my house, I wouldn't be doing business with Lowe's. I really would. Because the squeeze ain't worth the juice ain't worth the squeeze at that point. But because it's so convenient, it's a win.
No, man, and I like that. And I think one of the things that you kind of really hit on really throughout this interview is, man, you got to make sure the numbers work. We can all have this great ideal and this great invention, but if the numbers not numbering, you can't make no money off of it, then don't let this thing be fool's gold or try to sell stuff when you're going to be losing out on money, man. The numbers got to make sense based on who you're dealing with, what platform you're selling it on. And at the end of the day, you have to be able to make money. And if it's kind of not, if it's not just happening like that, or the numbers don't work out, then maybe you want to kind of rethink your strategy and kind of go back to the drawing board.
Yep. I mean, this is why, like for Rocket Mortgage, I mean, for Marathon Petroleum on Wayne State, when they buy bulk, they get discount. They get them for 12. So this is why you got to, pricing is everything. I mean, this is why you got to make up your mind. Am I in this for a business, or is this just a hobby? Because if it's a business, you got to make sure the numbers work. Even in worst case scenario, the numbers work.
Oh yeah, you can't just run them in a good situation, like you said. You got to run them in that bad situation to make sure that you like you said, they still numbering at that point. So I definitely appreciate the talk. I think you gave a lot of jewels, audience members. Hopefully you guys had your pens, your papers out, and was taking notes, because Mr. Thompson, he definitely spoke about a lot, especially when you're talking about numbers. And again, I love what you said about kind of doing the things that a lot of people are not going to do. Go to those different, events and get a part of those groups. Reach out to people who, you think it'll be a long shot. Don't be afraid to be told no, because that's just a part of the game. A lot of those things that you told is definitely going to help out in the long run when you're talking about businesses, particularly when you're talking about small Black businesses. It's a way, man. You're doing it. You're doing some great things. It was good to see you at the event last weekend at Michigan State University. And I'm glad to be able to get you on the podcast to really talk about your story. And I think the actual product is a pretty a good product that has utility, not just only in the wintertime and the fall time. It's something that's good to have around the house, because you never know what you're going to use it for, whether it's kind of dealing with the gutters or just trying to get twigs and leaves or objects off of your roof. So I think it has a lot of utility. And this was a good one to be able to kind of talk through your story. So I guess I'll give you the final words before we close out here.
No, it was a pleasure. And I think that I enjoy telling my story. I enjoy encouraging people, because we don't get enough of that. All we see is the reasons why not to do something. Give me a break. If you're breathing, do it. Because the day you stop breathing, you can't do it. So live with no regrets. Get up, get it done. And failure is always success anyway. So
no, I like that. And I think that's a great way to close out on it, audience. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. You guys take care.